Hello everyone, my name is Francesca Rios and the topic I have chosen to discuss today is standardized testing. So, what is a standardized test? A standardized test is a test that is administered and scored in a consistent or standard manner. For example, here in Texas, we use the START test. These tests requires all takers to answer the same questions in the same way and is scored in a consistent manner, which makes it possible to compare the performance of individual students or groups of students. So I'll be providing some background information on standardized testing to answer the question, should standardized tests be abolished? So why should standardized tests be abolished? Standardized tests only determine which students are good at taking tests. They offer no meaningful measure of progress and have not improved student performance. The US most recently ranked 23rd, 39th, and 25th in reading, math, and science. If standardized tests really work, then why are we not ranking higher? Standardized tests are racist, classist, and sexist. Studies show that an average white rich men tend to score higher on standardized tests. First of all, the origin of the American standardized tests are those created by psychologist Carl Brigham for the Army during World War I, which was later adopted to become the SAT. The Army tests were created specifically to segregate soldiers by race because at the time science inaccurately linked intelligence and race. Test designers rely on some questions which assume background knowledge more often held by white middle-class students. Wealthy students tend to have higher standardized test scores due to differences in brain development caused by factors such as access to enriching educational resources and exposure to spoken language and vocabulary early in life. Girls perform better on standardized tests that have more open-ended questions, while boys score higher on tests that include more multiple choice. Researchers believe that one explanation for the gender difference on high-stakes tests is risk aversion, meaning girls tend to guess less. Standardized tests are unfair metrics for teacher evaluations. Based on classroom grades achieved, a teacher might receive a raise or be fired from her job. Teachers then begin to teach the test instead of teaching subject materials to obtain needed results. Standardized tests measure achievement against goals rather than measuring progress. Standardized test scores are not predictors of future success. Grade point averages are 5 times stronger indicator of college success than standardized tests, according to a study of 55,084 Chicago public school students. So here we can have a peek at what the parents are saying. We have 67% of parents that believe there's too much emphasis on testing. 14% of parents say testing is important in measuring how effective a school is on children. And 66% of parents believe that test scores should not be used for teacher evaluations. Okay, so now we're going to talk about why we should not abolish standardized tests. Standardized tests create a universal standard for education. Most of the standardized tests are computer-based, which means the computer handles all the grading and all of the tasks, so there's no influence of a teacher on the exam. Teachers' grading practices are naturally uneven and subjective. Teachers can also have conscious and unconscious biases for their favorite student or against a rowdy student. Standardized tests offer students across the country a unified measure of their knowledge. Standardized tests are expensive. Studies show that states spend over $1.7 billion every year on standardized testing. Spending data for 45 different states determined that they spend over $669 million each year on assessment contracts. Teachers are pressured to teach to the test. Instead of focusing on what the students should be learning or not learning, they're focused on what's going to be on the test and what the students need to know from the test rather than what they should be knowing at their age. Educators frequently start teaching to the test if they feel that their evaluations and jobs solely depend on how well the students perform. So they're more focused on getting the kids to know the test and know what's going to be on the test because sometimes their jobs depend on it and their raises depend on it. Administrators' raises, bonuses also can depend on this. Here we have a cartoon depicting the pressure on everyone from the student to the higher ups. We have the lady with the clipboard. She says, no biggie, but if he misses problem 9, we'll put your accreditation and you'll bring shame on your community. Then we have admin saying, no pressure, but if he misses problem 9, you're out of a teaching job. And then we have the teacher to the student, David, it's problem 9, you know problem 9, relax, relax. I thought this picture was very accurate with my research or what I found in my research of the pressures that the teachers feel, the administration feels, and everyone feels when it comes to these standardized tests. So when it comes to standardized testing, what are our schools doing? As of now, 32 states use some form of standardized testing. 25 states require students to take the SAT or the ACT. The SAT and the ACT would be your college entrance exams or the exams used to confirm eligibility for college acceptance. 13 states require students to pass a test to get a high school diploma. What are we doing in Texas? In Texas, from 3rd to 8th grade, they test the STAR test, the State of Texas Assessments of Academic Readiness. For the high school, you have the same test. It's an end of course test. And then they need to pass this test in order to obtain your high school diploma. So now I'm going to share a couple of my opinions of what I think of the standardized tests overall. I believe they need to be improved. It's a good concept, but it needs to be improved in many ways, especially right now with the virus, everything's unpredictable. I believe they should be used as an asset, not as the whole reason a student does or doesn't pass a grade. They should not be required to graduate. One of the points I made was that GPAs are stronger indicators than tests, and I believe that. We should not deny a diploma because of a test score. Many students simply just can't test because of nerves and anxiety. And we shouldn't take away the opportunity of them to graduate because of something so simple as a test, especially if they already know the subjects and they have a good GPA. We shouldn't hold them back because of a test. I think teachers should not be penalized or incentivized. These tests shouldn't determine if a teacher is good enough. Teachers do so much for their students and it's often neglected. Some students just can't test well. That doesn't mean they don't know the subject. And too much money is wasted. Schools can find a better use for the monies than to throw it away on these tests. There are many schools with outdated books, no computers, or unsafe buildings. I believe these things are more important than knowing the Pythagorean theorem. I don't think they should do away with them completely. Even though there are many negatives, there are also many positives. I don't think they should do away with them completely, but I do believe that they need to sit down and remake them to where the results can be more accurate and fair. So then finally we have my works cited. I used these 3 web pages to come up with my presentation and my thoughts. So hopefully you can decide if you think we should get rid of the standardized tests or not. Thank you.